Peggy Kane. Peggy Kane is an EVP, reverse speech analysis person who disappeared a couple of years ago. She just disappeared out of nowhere and stopped posting videos. But the information that she had to share was very relevant. And so we're going to go into it to see what parts are relevant to us, what part can be helpful to us to leaving this controlled world and other controlled worlds that we might be going into after this lifetime. Specifically, we're going to talk about the grid, what she calls the grid around this planet and other planets, and the reincarnation trap, which is soul recycling, and the consumption of human flesh and other physical beings. Human flesh and non-human flesh, meaning soul consumption. And we're going to end with an important message, what I call shades of gray. I have guests here, children are playing the piano. So I will be talking as loudly as I can to make sure that there isn't too much interference. So Peggy Kane, in this I downloaded a couple of videos. In this short video, this one is about 4 minutes long. I'll pause it as we go along the way. She gives a summary of the overall situation of the planet, which is basically that we are in a very tightly controlled planet, and that most people don't even realize how well controlled the planet is, and that's very important. Understanding this will help us to understand other elements that people are struggling with, other things that people are struggling with, such as I want to say flat Earth, but it's not flat Earth. What is it? Like going to the moon. The fact that some people are still confused about going to the moon, or leaving the planet. And now, if the rest comes to me, we'll talk about it as we go along. So let's listen to this first video.
Have been actually. I do have a video on YouTube, but I wanted to add to my information because there's some really important things coming up here, and my intention is to try to clear up any misunderstandings and disinformation which is rampant all over the place. You just check the internet. I'm just going to give you the very, very brief overview of what I've heard over the last 5 years. First, from listening to and reversing people on the other side, spirit people, and for that I really used the digital recorder, the RRDR60, which enabled me to hear the spirit people. I found out that first they lie a lot, and then when I reversed the EVP, I could hear when they were lying. And second, once they stopped lying, because I could always reveal the lie, they began to tell me about life over there. And it was nothing like what any of us had learned. And so I really started this quest to figure out why things were so different than what we've been taught to believe. And so there started my journey. I began to reverse everybody. Myself talking to the spirit people, and then all different kinds of people. And slowly I've pieced together this overview of what's been going on this planet for thousands of years. This planet is like a farm. It is a controlled place. We do not have any idea how controlled it is for the most part. There's a reptilian race from Orion who literally won the battle thousands and thousands of years ago and claimed Earth as its own territory. What they did was they put up a grid or a net, some kind of electromagnetic force field around this planet that emanates from Mars. They have constructed virtually a Disneyland here, truly a matrix, which we see as three-dimensional life. And everything that goes on here seems so real and solid. But they basically gave us our political systems, our money system, war, famine, plagues, illnesses. They've created the reincarnational cycle. They know our minds better than we do. They know how to manipulate people's minds and their belief systems. All the religions were given to us by them because they keep us fighting. They keep us all looking at each other, fighting each other. War has been a great boon to them.
Okay, she said a mouthful. Let's just slow it down a little bit. This planet is well controlled. It is so well controlled that intelligence is actually reversed. For example, what do I mean by that? We tend to think that the intellect is real intelligence. Like when you go to school and you get high marks, you get into a really good university. But I always have to ask the question. Does that high SAT score or getting into Harvard or Yale or Columbia, would that take you to heaven? If the answer is no, and the answer should be no, then you realize that there's a higher level of intelligence. Intelligence is actually taking care of yourself. So the reincarnation trap is very important because the people who are controlling the system, we spoke about it in other videos, the council, and ultimately the AI controls it. But it is very well controlled. I was just thinking while she was speaking that an example that I could give about how well controlled it is the United States of America. The United States of America is so well controlled that if you want to take a loan, for example, borrow money for your pension, they tax you so heavily. If you do it once, they won't tax you as heavily. If you do it a second time, trying to take a little more money, trying to start a little project, they will tax you very heavily because they don't want anybody, getting out of their slave situation. And some people think this is an accident. But of course, there are ways to get out of to make money, but if you want to speed up the process, it is not easy. They don't make it easy. Another example is trying to start your own business. Perhaps you're thinking. At one time, I was thinking maybe opening up a store. Well, it costs several $1,000s, $4,000 or $5,000 to run a store, at least in New York. Who has that much money? And, what if, the money doesn't come in? So they make it almost impossible, and then they tell you in school and on TV that anyone can make it. Anyone can have the life they want, the American dream. That's why they call it the American dream. It's a dream. So you have things like that. And then you have gurus who keep lying to you. Then you have religion that just keeps lying to you. Or, if you don't think this way, then you're an atheist. Regardless of the fact that there's life after death, right? I've been called that. Just because I said, well, there's actually, being Muslim, being Christian, there's, a bigger picture. It doesn't really matter what religion you are, as long as you are very spiritual and you're working toward improving yourself. That's what's important. And people will call you, that's just a judgment call, right? That's how well controlled, how stupid people are. People really are stupid. And there's no point in hiding that at this point. If you know me, I'm not going to hide it. People are, by stupid, I mean very judgmental and very negative. So because of the world has been manipulated through the grid, it is very difficult for people to shake out of it. It's the only thing that will shake out of this mess we're in is going to be a deeper sense of love, which is going to require just brutal truth, even if it hurts other people. Brutal truth. Especially if you're sharing information online. You got to just tell the truth. You gotta, and alright, let's just go on with the video. There's a lot more to say. But the whole thing, okay, I almost forgot. The reincarnation trap is also very important to remember. She's going to go into a little more later, I believe. I know that some people have a hard time with this because they think that they are their physical body. Reincarnation has nothing to do with having a physical body, because we are not our physical self. Physicality does not exist. Reality is an illusion, albeit a persistent one. This table, before it was hard, it was lucid. It was a hardening through fire and mostly fire, that it became solid. Before a tree was a tree, it appeared out of nowhere, grew up and pushed forward. As I said in the previous videos, it is our frequency, light vibration, that has been slowed down to perceive and feel and sense physicality. So that's how things are perceived as real or physical. Otherwise, this world isn't real. Me talking to you right now is not happening. I'm not talking to you right now the way that most of the planet, most of us are perceiving it, because I'm not physical. I'm not. So in any case, it's important to realize that reincarnation has nothing to do with physicality, and that there is a light inside each individual. It's so light that if you're not careful, we think we are our physical selves. This light is what goes on, that exits the body when you die and enters another body, another woman's body to give you birth. That is your real self. You carry with you memories, and some of them you remember bits and pieces, because when you're reincarnated, your memories are wiped, especially if you enter the tunnel of light or the vortex. I learned recently through a vision, the vortex and the tunnel of light are the same. The tunnel of light wipes your memory clean, unless you are entering through a back gate. So that is how they're controlling this planet. The grid. I penetrated the grid once I stopped eating meat. I cannot stress this enough. If you give up flesh, you become that much more powerful. It doesn't matter if people believe you or not. You are. Especially if you're a source player. And I know there are source players on my station. And I'm pretty sure there are source players listening now. You will have the resources. Especially if you're trying to dig in deeper and to share information with people, and you're trying to reach the best part of you by telling the truth. The first time I passed through the grid, it was entities rushed toward me, and I discussed this in I think it was book 3. All my books are free on the computer on my YouTube channel, and you just have to look for either book 1, book 2, book 3, and listen to the recordings. And these entities stopped. Once you penetrate, the only way you can penetrate the grid is by vibrating higher. And to vibrate higher, you have to accept. You have to love deeper. And loving deeper doesn't mean that you have. No. I've gotten quite a few attacks the past couple of months, and I've gotten pretty good at hitting people hard, hitting back hard every time they try to be nasty. I hit them. You just read the comment. Go back and read the comments. You'll see how I hit them hard, because they think that love means that you have to be super, super nice to them. That's what they think. It's almost as if they're trying to use love against you. Love means that you have to be honest. It doesn't mean that you have to, like, bow down to them. So this person was coming at me, quote unquote, coming at me. The street talk. The person was trying to come at me. So okay, all right. So I told him, listen, keep eating your meat and stay in hell. That's your choice. And of course he was upset, and I just blocked him. So, yeah, and people don't want to listen, because oftentimes people don't listen until you hit them hard, okay? Until you spank them, And I prefer to let them spank themselves, but once in a while I have to give them a knock on the head. So this planet and other realm, not just this realm, are very well controlled.
Well, I began to wake up to this a few years ago by listening to people speaking in reverse. I could hear that all of the power people on this planet had an alien cloaked within them. Often in reverse, the alien would speak. Then I began to hear how they would construct different scenarios for their own agendas. So the reason I'm doing this audio, because I know that there are other people who are on to this. There are other websites talking about the reptilian agenda and so forth. But there is something that is really important coming up, and that is Planet X. Planet X is incoming. It's being hidden from us by this force field that literally, what we see when we look out in the night sky is nothing like what is really going on out there. It is teeming with life. But we are in such a lockdown right now that we just need some help here, because it's gone from bad to worse. And if you think it's bad on this side with all the terrible things that are happening, it's even worse on the other side. We collectively cried out for help.
Okay, so Planet X.
My name is Peggy Kane, and I've been listening.
Planet X. I don't know much about Planet X. I've watched quite a few videos. I can't speak against it or for it, but I do know that a lot is happening on the other side. Every time you go to sleep, come on, you're on missions. Things are happening, and you think it's just a dream, but things are happening. And so if Planet X did enter our orbit, then it wasn't a physical thing. I don't know. Whatever. So Peggy Kane, so far she's talked about the how well controlled the planet is through the grid. Being brought back, forced reincarnation, and so forth. Let's see. There are other things that we have to talk about. We need to go into reincarnation a little more, and human meat eating and soul eating. And we also need to go into shape-shifting. Is that the one I just played? Let's try this one right here. The grid. Planet X, our prison break, part 5, the reptilian net, EVP, now we can't see you. You're hurting, just hanging. Now they're hurting, just hanging. I found out by talking to the Astral people that they are hunted and murdered in that world. They live a nightmare life, and no one hears them. Forward, kill at night. Reverse, beyond the worst. Beyond the worst. Sounds like a New York
This
accent.
is part 5 in the series of videos that I'm making called Planet X, Our Prison Break.
Peggy.
What I'm trying to do is to, by using my audio files,
Reptilian?
show
Slit
you how I
eyes?
came to know about this hidden reptilian race that's been controlling our planet for thousands of years, and how they've strung an electromagnetic frequency barrier around the planet, extending from the planet Mars, which they own. They also own the moon, and it is a staging area for them.
Okay, so it's not just this planet that has a grid. A lot of planets have grids, if not most of them. Because the whole entire universe is a reincarnation trap. It's not just one planet. Okay, so if you look at this planet, it's round, right? But some people claim that the world is actually flat, a circle. The world is actually a circle. Well, it's easy to fall for the trick of the world being round. It is round. It is a circle. And it looks round. If you're not careful, you will not understand the whole flat Earth people. Flat Earth. It is flat. You know, it has depth at the bottom, and it's more or less flat, and in a circular form. But there is a dome here around, like a little half a circle, and then another half a circle that covers the whole entire planet. Okay, so that's why it looks like a ball. Okay, so it looks like a ball, but it's really a flat. It's a flat planet. So, given that there is a circular dome around the planet, and there's a grid to stop souls from exiting the planet, well, that sort of makes sense, right? Because how do you stop? You don't want to be stopping people one by one. You want to stop. How do you pollute? How do you stop people from? How do you get people to? You pollute the whole sea, right? Not one. Don't pollute one person at a time. If you want to, how do you corrupt? How do you do when you want to do something good? What do? You do it for the mass. You do it for the, do it for the whole set, so everybody will benefit from it. Or if you want to damage something, you do it for the whole set, so everybody gets hurt from it. So you gotta use the logic. So with this logic, I want to talk about. Make sure that I have the right thing here, because I want to bring in the given. Okay, so far we understand that so I've said that the planet is actually a globe, right? And it's flat at the same time because of the domes around it. What does that mean in terms of the moon landing? Well, if there's a grid around the planet stopping us, like an electrical grid around the planet stopping us from leaving the planet, does it make sense that we've landed on the moon? We have not landed on the moon. We cannot land on the moon because that defeats the purpose. Imagine somebody leaving the planet and landing on the moon. Maybe those astronauts want to, oh my God, somebody might have see something. They might have a spiritual aspiration and maybe start working toward going to source. Screw this, I'm out of here. Because of the grid, it makes sense that we have never landed on the moon. Okay? In fact, when I was out of space, when I exited my body to see how the universe is set up, how this planet was set up, I saw no sun and I saw no moon. Unless the moon was hiding in the far right corner, I didn't see it. The moon is an artificial construct. And I know that the sun is definitely an artificial construct. It doesn't exist. The sun definitely does not exist. So anytime anybody talks about going to the moon, if you watch Project Camelot, Project Camelot is another fraudulent alternative radio broadcasting system. Look at the number of people they've interviewed talking about the moon and aliens. Well, if you understand a concept like this, that there is a grid around the planet, then you know that we've never landed on the moon, and you can automatically eliminate the fact that you can automatically come to the conclusion that Project Camelot is a fraud. So it's logical deduction. It doesn't take a genius. You can understand these things simply by knowing certain basic tenets of how the planet and the universe is set up. So that's important. I wanted to just point that out before we continue.
They work interdimensionally, and they move between the physical and the astral worlds. In the astral world, they move about openly.
Remember, she's talking about the controls of our planet and other realms, such as Mars.
The physical world, they are cloaked within people in positions of power who have the right DNA and the right dispositions. This includes most of our world leaders.
Alright, that makes sense that these reptilians are cloaked inside our world leaders. I don't doubt that. I know that people are possessed. Possession is throughout history. I myself had entities in me that, it's been a pain in the butt to get out. Most of us are possessed, we just don't know it. But these super demons are the ones that are controlling. Of course, you need these super demons to control political leaders to do that kind of atrocity, for them to keep lying to people and keep committing murder and so forth. You need extreme darkness. So that makes sense. I don't know if it's true that it's always because they're cloaked. It could just be that they are demons. These political leaders are demons themselves.
Universe eliminates. Universe eliminates.
Okay, so here it says the net, which is the grid, is one of the most common terms in reverse speaking. Hide, bush, nets. It says, in the universe, you run your nets. Hide in the universe, okay? It's not just this planet. They're telling you the whole entire universe is controlled. Okay? You run your nets. Okay? These reptiles, the negative reptilians, and not just the reptilians. The council isn't comprised of just. Anyway, hide the net. Of course they hide it. You can't see with the physical eyes. He saw a net. They'll hold the net, the grid.
He saw a net.
I want to clear up something right from the start. Many people think that certain world leaders are reptilians. This is not exactly true. The world leaders have a reptilian symbiote.
Not exactly true. I think some of them are reptilians. And I think some of them do have reptilians cloaked inside. I think it's both.
Cloaked within them. This is why genetic manipulation is so important to this hidden race. In order for this astral form of a reptilian to be able to inhabit a human being, they have to have the right DNA. So while these individuals do have reptilian characteristics, they in themselves are not reptilians. They are humans. They are simply being managed and used by the reptilian within.
You don't have to understand where they. Yeah, mate. Yeah, mate.
They are a snake. He's bad serpents.
He's a serpent.
He's a phony, hissing.
Reptilians. Reptilians.
Dragons, your global elite. The dragon race is from, it says, the dragon race is from the constellation of Orion and not Nibiru, planet X. PX, that's planet X, is a force needed to bring down this massive net. Okay? Must ban the dragon. Here, snake. The dragon race is from the constellation of Orion and not Nibiru. Orion. Okay, so then it says here, our true creator, the one, is furious that we have suffered so much here on earth. They're referring to Source. PX is a response to our cry for help. Planet X. Reverse. Send out for help. Pass. Then you get them. God stand over and end this. Okay. Get to see and lead. Get to see the love of our family. God take the nets. For God get them off the net.
Send out for help. Yeah.
Okay, so Planet X, I don't know. Okay, I want to, there are two other major things that we need to talk about, which is the consumption of human flesh, human meat, that I suspect we are already engaged in. That's going to be my next major project. I think a lot of people, okay, I'll get to that later. Let's see, so I'll click this off and go to full interview. Peggy Kane, let's listen to, I have to skip around. I don't know if I wrote this down. Brothers and sisters being possessed. Infinite water.
Okay, Peggy, it's April 30th, 2006, and we're just hours away from May 2006. And yesterday, April 29th, you posted a summary of your website and proclaimed it to be your final post for the website, and set the closing date of the site for a couple days into May. What led to this decision?
I just didn't want to be involved with a big countdown. I felt I said everything I needed to put up and start smiting these reptilian information.
Yeah, people who have passed on to the safe spot, like some of the aliens found the planet in the
Animals, children in front of them, while they're raping those animals, while they're sending them to be killed. You know what I'm saying? It was supposedly, I've heard, it was beautiful. It was, one woman called it my Eden. You took away my Eden. We, as a species, the human race, was evolving on this beautiful planet just wonderfully, but naive enough to when these gods came, so-called, and they wowed everybody with their technologies, and then they started this whole thing. So, you know, every culture has its gods and goddesses, you know, the Greek gods and all these different Sumerians. And I think, but it was after the last passing of the planet X, with the great flood stories that are all over, that's when they decided not to come back in their own, or in a form, a physical form. That was when the decision was made to come and be cloaked within human beings, so that, you know, because all of a sudden they were back. You know, now all of a sudden we're sort of left on our own, but we're not. That's when they decided to use the cover, cloaking of humans.
So have the reptilians been involved in the Lemurian or the quiet invasion of Atlantis?
You know, I don't really know that. I can't seem to get much information about Lemuria or Atlantis. For some reason, I just can't seem to get that.
Now, what do you think about the paradigm on planet Earth of slaughtering animals for food? Where does that come from? Is that a reptilian philosophy?
I think so, but it just doesn't seem right, because too they have consciousness, and you know, I eat a little bit of meat, but I don't feel good about it. But the one thing I will say that for the most part, humans don't torture the animals. Before, at least I hope not. They're not raping the animals while they're sending them to torture. They're not purposely torturing the animals' children in front of them while they're raping those animals, while they're sending them to be killed. You know what I'm saying? This is
A level of perversion.
This is a level of perversion you can't even imagine.
You said there were advanced reptilian geneticists that manipulated human DNA. Is that your, or am I confusing that with somebody else?
I think that's probably true, but I don't know that.
You haven't heard it in reverse speech.
It's hard to get that kind of technical information.
Now, tell me if you have a problem with any of these statements. Reptilians mated with human women to create bloodline families. This
That's
is
probably true.
Ike material. Reptilians leave the reptilian bodies in storage when they come here.
I think that's true.
Reptilians survived the last time Planet X passed.
They left. They loosened the net as the planet made the passage. Then they sent down their minions to check out the situation. And once things settled down, they came back. That's what I heard in reverse.
And the reptilians set up all the political, religious, and financial structures on Earth.
Yes.
You said in your final posting on your website, there are those here who are bowed down while trying to help and have been stuck in the reincarnational cycle. They have had their memories wiped and are just plugging along like most of the planet.
Yeah. You can say that again. That's yes. We, all of us, we try to help. We came down. We got stuck. We got stuck. All right.
I think the difference is that those from elsewhere are always trying to figure things out. They are not really comfortable here. Philosophy.
I think so, but it just doesn't seem right, because too they have consciousness, and you know, I eat a little bit of meat, but I don't feel good about it. But the one thing I will say that for the most part, humans don't torture the animals. Before, at least I hope not. They're not raping the animals while they're sending them to torture. They're not purposely torturing the animals' children in front of them while they're raping those animals, while they're sending them to be killed. You know what I'm saying? This is
A level of perversion.
This is a level of perversion you can't even imagine.
You said there were advanced reptilian geneticists that manipulated human DNA. Is that your, or am I confusing that with somebody else?
I think that's probably true, but I don't know that.
You haven't heard it in reverse speech.
It's hard to get that kind of technical information.
Now, tell me if you have a problem with any of these statements. Reptilians mated with human women to create bloodline families. This
That's
is
probably true.
Ike material. Reptilians leave the reptilian bodies in storage when they come here.
I think that's true.
Reptilians survived the last time Planet X passed.
They left. They loosened the net as the planet made the passage. Then they sent down their minions to check out the situation. And once things settled down, they came back. That's what I heard in reverse.
And the reptilians set up all the political, religious, and financial structures on Earth.
Yes.
You said in your final posting on your website, there are those here who were brought down while trying to help and have been stuck in the reincarnational cycle. They have had their memories wiped and are just plugging along like most of the planet. I think the difference is that those from elsewhere are always trying to figure things out. They are not really comfortable here. They, all of you I would suspect, are
I'm
on
not
these types of
comfortable here.
websites reading voraciously different esoteric books, whether religious, metaphysical, UFO, paranormal, etc. There is a feeling that something is wrong and they're always seeking answers.
What the feeling? We know there's something wrong. Most people who come on, who are exploring these esoteric questions and topics, they have an inner knowing. It's like a vague soul memory that they have been deceived. And some of us are recovering our memories pretty fast.
So how did the reptilians put up this net or this net technology? Do you have any information about that?
I don't really have that much information. It's layers. It's not just a net. This is layers.
Layers.
It's, one inside of the
A
other.
Chinese box.
Kind of that way. I know it's, I heard it referred to as the Martian net, so I think that this extends all the way to Mars. And I know that they use wormholes and portals in order to transport body parts and what have you from energy points here, probably portals or energy centers, which are there connected to wormholes. They use those to transport to Mars and to Orion. That is the one place that they're most vulnerable because they're not real. They're sort of outside of the net.
Okay, I'm going to read this if I can. That's kind of hard to read. Thousands of tourists and local residents witnessed witnessed a mirage of high clarity lasting for 4 hours off the shore of whatever city in East China, Shandong province on Sunday.
Anyway, so they were furious when I heard that, and I talked about it too.
So Peggy Kane just said that humans are being transported, body parts are being transported to other realms to be eaten, other physical realms. I mean, it has to be physical. If you're taking, well, it doesn't have to be physical. If they have the technology, can turn physical to non-physical, and they can match it to their frequency, and it could be somewhat physical, and it can still consume you. Okay, so the whole meat-eating thing, human flesh-eating thing, I had to take that question seriously. A couple of years ago, I want to say 2015 was when I started doing research, and a lot of people, there were some people who posted on the internet about human flesh eating. I note that around the world, presently, there are a few countries that have been caught, a few restaurants have been caught serving human meat. I know that, I don't think I need to mention these specific countries, but if you do your research, you'll see that there have been articles on the computer, and to this day, people still eat human flesh. The elite, for sure, they eat human flesh and drink blood. I had a colleague, a teacher colleague, talk to me about this. It was actually, without going into details, someone that she knew who confided in her in confidence. It was a young lady, less than 20 years old, who was influenced by an older man who was drinking blood, and she became addicted. She didn't know how to stop. So blood drinking is not blood drinking and human flesh eating. I think it goes on a lot more than we think. And elite use it to stay young, according to the research. So how do I know that Peggy Kane is telling the truth? Well, and is it true what she said, that they're transporting human flesh to other realms, other frequencies, other worlds through portals? Absolutely, I think it's true. Well, how do I know this? Because in 2015, I was traveling through the frequencies. When I was traveling through the frequencies, I asked a question. I came across a couple of weird, I don't remember whether they were reptilians. They were just weird looking, and I couldn't remember the exact shape of these beings. And so I approached them. They couldn't touch me, so I approached them. I said, so you know, do you guys really eat human meat, human flesh? They looked at me, was like, what's the big deal? So I had my answer right there. I mean, it was as if like I didn't really need to ask the question, as if I already knew the answer. So that is being done. It's not just merely, we're not merely, they're not just sucking our energy, they're not just keeping us in the system, it's sucking our negative emotions. Our controls are not just sucking our negative emotions and using that as fuel. They're also eating us physically and spiritually. The spiritual aspect, Peggy will go into in a little bit.
Yeah, you say reptilians want to keep us endlessly shut down, fighting amongst ourselves. How does that help them?
Well, we never turn around to see who's creating the mess. And we just keep fighting each other.
And you also said we cannot create our own reality right now because we are inside the matrix of the net. Mm-hmm. Does that give you a hopeless feeling, or what can we do if we can't create our own reality right now?
Well, I don't have a hopeless feeling because it's self-changing. If I thought this was going to go on forever, because I know what their agenda was. Their future agenda was to microchip everybody, to have certain people set aside as slaves, the rest in concentration camps and as a constant food source. And then they would probably alter the environment so that it would be comfortable for them, because they're blind in the sunlight, can't see in the sunlight. So that would have been our future, a total slave, locked down slave planet. Now, if I didn't know that Planet X was coming in to shred the net, being sent by God, the Creator, and if I didn't know that this whole reality was changing, I probably wouldn't be able to get out of bed in the morning because it would be so depressing. But as it is, I am very, very hopeful that this is going to change, and we're going to be rescued from this mess.
What if the fourth dimension, the lower astral, was someplace in the solar system, physical frequency we couldn't see, like on Mars or on Venus? Do you think that's possible?
Well, there is a...
Monroe also mentions Lush. How is that important in understanding this phenomenon?
Okay,
They
Lush.
operate on Mars in the fourth dimension, but they're not physically there on the planet. They're there interdimensionally.
So, when you talk about spirit people leaving their bodies, being propelled and dumped, on their way out, you said they bumped their heads on the net.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by that?
Well, when they try to get out of your body, it's like a Faraday cage. And when Robert Monroe was put into a Faraday cage, he could astral travel. But in the Faraday cage, when he got out of his body, he would hit that, and his astral body could not go through the Faraday cage, which was electrified. And this is what's happened. And what happens is they may project out to a certain point if they're pretty aware, and then they...
Okay, let's just stress that. You can get beyond the net if you are very aware. Okay, so being aware means you have to have the information. Being aware is twofold. It's not just having the information, doing the research, that's one. The second element of being aware is cleansing yourself. So you're not just merely hearing the information, so you can decipher what elements of the information is true and what's not. that means that you have to eat better. You have to give up flesh. You have to give up meat, animal product. When you do that, your soul will take care of the rest. You don't have to think about, when I die, how do I surpass the net? Your soul is infinitely smarter than your mind. Your soul will take care of the rest. Okay, that's what being aware means.
They'll hit the barrier, and then they'll just be accosted, surrounded, taken away.
Robert Monroe also mentions loosh. How is that important in understanding
Okay, he said loosh.
this phenomenon?
Well, they regularly, they're parasitic as well as eating astral flesh and sometimes physical flesh. They are parasitic, so they...
Astral flesh. In a previous video, I think it was 2 or 3 days ago, I spoke about was it Astral Wars? The astral dimension, or the non-physical world, is more lucid. It's not physical. It's not as it's more lucid than here. So if you do remember doing things in a non-physical, well, then you are in the astral. And it's not just merely dreaming. People think they're just dreaming, but things are they're actually doing things when they go to sleep. You just don't remember. So you could be eaten there too, because the consumption of energy isn't limited to physicality.
They ingest energy through, while people are sleeping and meditating in the restful state. If you feel a vibration, like in a certain body part or on your face, just like a light tingly, then somebody's sucking your energy. You can feel it in different areas. Usually it's around a chakra or a major organ, because that's where most of the energy is housed. And so they'll be feeding on you. And I've heard them talk about, waiting for somebody to go to sleep so they'll feed them.
You've also talked about reptilians can take good astral people and through reincarnation can force them back into the cycle of the net.
They do.
Is this from the reverse speech that you hear this, or the EVP?
It doesn't really matter how she heard it. It's true. It's all based on your awareness. If you want to believe whatever you want to believe, you don't want to change. You want to follow certain religions instead of being more spiritual, and then that's how you get looped back in, because you were a fool. You didn't see greater truths.
I don't think I've heard that through reverse speech. I think I've heard that through other information. So I can't say, but I know that they call it recycling, when they cycle somebody back into the game.
Recycling, yeah.
After all, this is where children are brought up. The other planes, they don't have children. They can't have children on the lower astral. So in order for them to create a new baby with consciousness, they can create...
We're going to skip ahead here to 44.
The seeding people. They want to get as many people seeded as possible before they leave. So I know they have underground. They're underground. They have huge bases there.
And what else do they have going on in Mars?
Well, that's where they take a lot of the people that die, and that's where they kill them again. And they have huge meat lockers.
Okay, meat lockers.
That's where the ship will stop.
Mars, meat lockers.
More meat. These animals, these lizards have just voracious appetites. Voracious. They use a lot of meat.
Now, regarding the reptilians, you've said, we've been handed belief systems, political and religious, which have been used to great advantage by this group to promote dissension, hatred, bigotry, and cause war. War has created benefits for this group on every level, but primarily it is a feast, as the fallen soldier, young, healthy, and filled with adrenaline and fear, is the favorite food source of this group. Once on the other side, the soldier is again faced with his death, and this time at the hands of leering reptiles mocking his sacrifice for a patriotic cause. Within the last few years, we have had an invasion of perhaps tens of thousands or even more of these new arrivals. Most of these are clone beings with no compassion whatsoever. They were given an extra Y chromosome in order to be more aggressive. I would say that this group is virtually all male, and in the past I've spoken to some of these entities who have been born naturally, as well as females of their species, and it seems now the male cloned reptilians are dominating the interdimensional world. This started happening in September 2000. You say the reptilians feast.
They wait. They told me you make war, we plan the wars, you fight, and you dine. And I have a reversal that says in World War II, when Bush was talking to the war vets, he said, we ain't so many, then we hit them.
Okay, so there goes the consumption of human flesh again. I have always wondered, space is limited here on the planet, and we bury our dead, right? If space is limited, and how do we just keep, like, because it's not like after 5 years you dig out the person you buried and you bury another person who dies, right? It doesn't work that way. People are buried for years and years and years, so shouldn't we have run out of space for burial by now if everybody were being buried? I mean, so I have I think I'm reluctant to go into this, but I think I'll just bring it up later. But something is off about the whole, what's for sure is that, we're not burying all of our dead. Some of us are being eaten. I'll just leave it like that for now.
Why did we have war? Strictly. Well, there's different reasons. They can make money and use control, but...
So did they instigate murders as well?
Oh, yeah.
So there was a case that you and Ted investigated back in 90.
They're so terrified of what's coming because everything that they gain and everything that they do, their drugs, their food, their pleasure, their energy, they have nothing without the human. So this is going around us is their life.
Are reptilians telepathic?
Some of them are, but not all of them.
Are they interdimensional? I mean,
Yeah.
would you call them
They
interdimensional?
are interdimensional.
You also mentioned at one point that it appears to you that it might be possible that they can revivify dead, deceased human
I know
bodies.
they can.
What?
Okay, we're gonna stop here. Let's summarize, because this video was pretty long, so we don't get lost. So the planet, our planet, is a globe, simultaneously flat, and is a globe because of the dome around it. And there's a grid around it, electrical, magnetic, I think she said, that keeps people from leaving, and we're being recycled by the negative reptilians through the reincarnation process. And human beings, their energy are not merely being consumed non-physically, they are also being consumed physically. Human beings are being consumed in other worlds, they're being shipped to other worlds. As I said, I give personal examples of how I verified it. So meat lockers we talked about. And then I also spoke briefly about the moon, how once you understand certain tenets of information, then you can apply that to other elements so that you're not deceived, such as if there's a grid around the planet, well, then we never landed on the moon, okay? Because they would, logically speaking, we would not be allowed to leave the planet. And it also makes sense, I didn't say this, but it also makes sense that if there's a grid around the planet, then why would we be living on top of the planet? We're not living on top of the planet if there's a grid around it. Okay? What's the point of putting a grid around the planet unless it's like, so the grid is like feet and feet and feet above the planet, above the circle? Makes no sense. It has to be connected to the physical planet. So we're not living on the surface of the planet, we're living inside the dome. We're living inside the planet. Because if we were living on the surface of the planet, then it would be easy to escape and go to other realms after we die. I didn't make that point clear. It just came to me. So the last thing that I would like to caution people of is this. I'll just say it simply like this: shades of gray. Again, it's important for people to share information not only from sources that are 100% accurate, but that are maybe 90% accurate. I don't worry about what people have to say. Some people may like Peggy Kane, some people may not like her. I don't care. What she has, the element of the information that she has to share that is relevant to us to help us return to source sooner, is what I'm interested in. So there are shades of gray. It's not always, information is not always knowledge for us to get out of here. It's not always going to be black or white. So with that said, let us let's keep a broader picture of our situation in mind. I'm going to click this off and show you something else about what I just said about there are always shades of gray. This is
Hey everybody, this is PND 51010.
And it's PND 51010. And PND 51010 is doing a shape-shifting analysis of Peggy Kane.
And today we're going to be looking at an analysis of EVP reverse speech expert Peggy Kane. And the source video I'll be giving in the description box, but the name of it is The Reptilian Manipulation of Humanity, Part 3 of 8. So you can check it out for yourself if you want to view the anomalies more clear, because this is over video camera.
I'm going to silence him. As you can see, you can look at the screen to see what's going on with Peggy's eyes. Peggy, even though this is not a very good video, you can find other videos of Peggy on a computer shape-shifting. I'm sure you can. Better clarity. Peggy is one of the people that I wrote to several times, but no response. One day I was using the computer, and I've watched pretty much all her videos. One day I was the computer just froze on me one day while I was working. It just froze, like, and there was Peggy, slit eyes, staring at me. And it happened twice. I was like, what? So that's when I knew, you can see the slit eyes right here, that Peggy is a reptilian. Now, Peggy said that people are not reptilians per se, that they are cloaked. There are reptilians cloaked in them. That could be very well true, but we need to, we can't, we need to tell 100% truth. So I think it's important for me to point this out here, that Peggy Kane may not seem to be who she is, or maybe she's cloaked, who knows, but there's something off. But at least she shares a lot more information than most people who are trying to deceive us in this realm to keep us in the grid, in a nut. So I'll give her that. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Again, this is PND 51010 if you want to watch his videos, any of his videos on shape-shifting. He does he has done quite a bit. Okay, I'll leave it like that. Okay, so things to keep in mind is to basically I'm hoping that people get out of this video is that to be well aware, because being well aware will take them out of the reincarnation trap. Being aware is doing your research, the literal knowledge, and being aware through cleansing and your mind and eating the right foods. And you don't need to be perfect to escape, and your soul will do the rest. And as you progress, always keep in mind that when you get a huge piece of information, sometimes you already know enough to discount other information. So you don't need to be debating every little detail of you don't need to be lied to by people like David Wilcock talking about landing on the moon, when you know that, logically speaking, from a greater perspective, that we are not meant to go beyond the grid. So there you have it. Good luck on your journey back to source consciousness.
So there's a lot, people just jump to conclusions and say,
Alright. We're going to stop it here. I wonder how long.